This group project is submitted in partial fulfillment of the requirements of the Doctorate of Strategic Leadership online orientation at Regent University. This presentation was completed by Tom Waller, Kathy Williams, Becky Veydt, and Thom Owens. By way of introduction, Tom Waller is from Colorado Springs, Colorado. Kathy is from Muncie, Indiana. Becky is from Jackson, Mississippi. And Thom Owens resides in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Here is an outline of today's presentation. These are the 6 questions briefly answered. What are the essential aspects of leadership, research, and practice? This is answered by Kathy. Is there a Christian perspective to research and practice leadership? Answered by Thom Owens. What are the considerations of the Christian thought to leadership, research, and practice? Answered by Tom Waller. What are the challenges of researching and practicing leadership in multicultural contexts? Answered by Becky. Do leadership, research, and practice differ from culture to culture? Answered by Kathy. What does the Christian leadership scholar and practitioner have to do to successfully operate in a global and multicultural world? Answered by Becky. The final slides are the reference slides used for this project. The first question is, what are the essential aspects of leadership, research, and practice? To define the essential aspects of leadership, research, and practice can be an overwhelming task. Northhouse helps us wade our way through 65 different classification systems for leadership and bring our focus down to a reasonable snapshot of the most essential elements of leadership. Leadership's hub includes a process, a transactional event, influence, how the leader affects followers, group context, the purpose for the process, and common goals, or mutual purpose. Leadership, research, and practice opens opportunity for an area of study called capacity builders. Lee teaches us that capacity builders require that knowledge and skills should be part of any capacity builder's toolbox, especially in the face of our current workforce's changing demographics due to immigration and generation shifts. This component of leadership supports maximizing individual competencies, which in turn radiates outward to influencing followers. The concept of capacity building deserves to be included as an essential aspect of leadership, research, and practice. The second question asks, is there a Christian perspective to research and practice of leadership? When considering role models to study for examples of effective leadership, the standard set by Jesus in his time here on earth has no equal. The model of servant leadership and the authority-servanthood paradox, recorded specifically in the Gospel of Mark, gives leaders at every level of any organization a viable example to emulate. Jesus' definition of leadership was then, as it is now, counter to the cultural and societal norms. Jewish and Greco-Roman society was centered on honor, shame, and patronage, neither of which were congruent with the deep personal humility demanded by Jesus' model and what he called his disciples both then and now to do. However, in the 21st century business environment, companies have found it necessary to transform from a business that simply earns a profit to one that maintains a competitive advantage. Many businesses are turning toward a model of people-centered, servant leadership as an approach to answering this requirement. From a research perspective, the study of the leadership principles embedded throughout the Bible are an endless treasure trove of examples and warnings for the researcher to uncover. By focusing on the positive and avoiding the negative, students and practitioners of leadership can identify the organizational barriers, beliefs, symbols, norms, values, and rules that prevent the modeling of positive servant leadership practices within any organization. Many leaders model undesirable and counterproductive behaviors as a result of their need for power and influence over the lives of others as they search for significance as a leader. A careful study of the model of Jesus as a servant leader suggests a solution in the source of the leader's significance by finding one's identity and one's relationship with God the Father, not in the role or function of the leader. To answer the third question, we see that the 3 main contributions of Christian thought to leadership are the study of spiritual leadership, the study of servant leadership, and the living of biblical leadership principles. Spiritual leadership has distinctive differences from general secular leadership principles. These include moving people to action, using the Holy Spirit as the means of change, being accountable to God, focusing on people, not just God's people, but also working God's agenda because they have cultivated a relationship with God. They also develop other spiritual leaders as Jesus did through his example of servant leadership. Clinton offers a 6-phase model of spiritual development. They are Phase 1, Sovereign Foundations. These are representative of God's activities during people's formative years. Phase 2, Inner Life Growth, the period in which one's character and spiritual life develop. Phase 3, Ministry Maturing, when people make their earliest attempts at spiritual leadership. Phase 4, Life Maturing. Spiritual leaders begin to focus on their strengths and find leadership opportunities in which they can be most effective. Phase 5, Convergence. People's ministry and life experiences converge into a specific job or responsibility for which they draw on all they have learned to achieve maximum effectiveness. Phase 6, Afterglow or Celebration, a level of leadership few people ever achieve. It comes after people have successfully led others for a significant period of time. Servant Leadership. Greenleaf presents the principles of serving those you are called to lead, as opposed to projecting the traditional authoritative figure, by effectively blending a secular and biblical analysis of the qualities of leaders and followers, and stresses the importance of leaders being attentive and selfless to the needs of others. The leader becomes a follower through the example of servanthood. As a result, an effective, accomplished leader-follower relationship is established. In servanthood, the person in the position as leader applies their power to create opportunity and alternatives so that individuals may choose and build autonomy in a cohesive, focused relationship. Embracing a Christian approach to servant leadership and focusing on relationships and serving others is contributing to a fundamental shift in the research and practice of leadership and leadership principles. A definition of leadership from a Christian perspective, presented by George Barna, reads, "A Christian leader is someone who is called by God to lead, leads with and through Christ-like character, and demonstrates the fundamental competencies that permit effective leadership to take place." He emphasizes the 3 C's for effective leadership: call, character, competence. God gives vision to leaders. God never gave a vision to a committee. Warren reminds us that vision originates from core values. Organizations determine their core values and then choose a direction that aligns with those values. A corporation's values keeps its activities linked to its priorities. For leadership principles, Maxwell offers in the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership that the laws of leadership that govern personal and organizational effectiveness isn't a matter of having a certain job or title, but rather being chosen for a position is only the first of the 5 levels every effective leader achieves. The 5 levels of leadership are: position, people follow because they have to; permission, people follow because they want to; production, people follow because of what you have done for the organization; 4, people development, people follow because of what you have done for them personally; and pinnacle, people follow because of who you are and what you represent. The answer to the 4th question reveals that there are 4 main challenges for those researching and practicing leadership in the global market: cultural, administrative, geographic, and economic barriers. Cultural barriers. The variances between cultures, even within the same country, can be vast and often present problems for both researchers and practitioners of leadership. These barriers can include language, and anxiety in communication is a hindrance and often affects persons from adapting and being productive in multicultural settings. Cultural ideologies and practices. There's often disparity in Western and Eastern mindsets and cultural practices, i.e. the concept of being, which is a challenge for Western-minded persons who have a tendency to exhibit more action-oriented behavior. Additionally, what may serve as a strength in one cultural context may function differently in a different cultural context. Anti-Western sentiments. One challenge in leadership global effectiveness is countering anti-American sentiments globally due to perpetuated negative stereotypes. Administrative barriers. Despite the technological advancement of recent years, which makes the world generally much more accessible, the world is far from flat and unified in its understanding and practice of leadership. These barriers can manifest as a lack of a unified perspective. A major issue here is that there is not a shared understanding between experts and leaders of what is meant by global leadership. This in turn can have an effect on training and preparation for rising global practitioners. And team and management selection. Team leaders often have a difficult time compiling teams for optimal performance, whether it's because they adapt already selected teams or have to form one themselves. Geographic barriers. This barrier of distance is one that bears great effect onto the above issues. Without immersion, learning another culture's language and ideology is more difficult and prolongs the process. Additionally, disparity in geographic location can hinder teams from getting to know each other and thus affect performance outcomes. Economic and political barriers. Global leaders are subject to both the economic and political landscapes of the country in which they operate, which can play into the favor or the detriment of the leaders and their organizations. The fifth question addresses the impact of culture on leadership. There are three main factors to consider, and those are individual, group, and organizational dynamics. While there are shared values in cross-cultural leadership research and practice that allow us to build a framework, the interior design of that framework will vary to specific cultural needs. The research and practice concerns are more complex than simply considering culture-to-culture differences as they occur within a host country, and must also take into consideration that many large corporations and organizations have a multinational force spread around the globe, a workforce that represents a wide mixture of people from different cultures and social backgrounds. Finn's study reminds us that culture can exist individually, within groups, and organizationally. That insight compels a positive response to our question concerning leadership research and practice differing from culture to culture. To appreciate culture as a binding force compels us to adapt best practices that value cultural influences. At the individual level, culture defines our values, attitudes, beliefs, and expectations and provides that framework for receiving or rejecting information. At the group level, culture is the basis for our traditions and rituals and reinforces our values, attitudes, beliefs, and expectations through a sense of community. At the organizational level, culture is the binding force and foundation for process and is responsible for both exclusive and inclusive relationships. The sixth and final question is concerned with Christian leadership and successful operations in a global and multicultural world. While several believe that leadership qualities are leadership qualities no matter the context, there are a few recognized leadership necessities for scholarly and practical success. They are humble respect and desire to learn from other cultures. Even within the same country, there are cultural differences. Leaders and researchers need to learn to respect and to serve the differences. Value integrity and have a high degree of responsibility. Having integrity is integral to all aspects of leadership success. This involves having an unwavering drive for self-improvement and growth, fostering the being dimension of human experience, the who versus the what, and keeping one's word to self and to others. Handle paradox by being both analytical and creative. Considering the wide-ranging variables in multicultural research and practice, leaders need to be able to think outside of contextual boxes and creatively problem solve for sake of application. And finally, have strong group leadership skills. Many companies believe that multicultural teams are at the heart of globalization, and therefore it is imperative that a global leader be skilled at selecting, developing, and maintaining strong multicultural teams in order to optimize the correlation between team composition and team performance. The following 4 slides are the list of references used in the development of this presentation. This is slide 2 of 4. This is slide 3 of 4. This is slide 4 of 4. This concludes our presentation. Thank you for your time and attention.